kind of start the workshop expressing debris-free ocean solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement, which is why Sophia and I have these particular Zoom backgrounds today. Our thoughts go out to Jacob Blake and his family, and we hope for a speedy recovery. And just on that note, some people don't necessarily realize how tied Debris-Free Oceans messaging is to the social justice movement. And so you should definitely head to our Instagram. We have a highlight all about the connections between plastics and waste and environmental racism. We're also doing Social Justice Saturdays posts, so definitely check that out if you're interested. But since it's been 5 minutes, I'm just gonna get going with the introduction, and people can sign on as they are able to. And then we'll get to our speakers in a couple minutes. Yeah, this is our Sustainable Urban Gardening and Education Workshop, all about different forms of sustainable gardening, what this means for our environment and our neighboring Biscayne Bay, and then also touch on the educational programs of these different groups and why they're so important. So we're really excited to have Fairchild here with the Connect to Protect program, Little River Cooperative, Lotus House, and Miami Waterkeeper. I guess I should take a step back and introduce myself. My name's Maddie Kaufman, and I am the program director at Debris-Free Oceans. So that usually entails running our in-person programs, sustainability consulting and whatnot. But right now it's obviously geared towards virtual education, which truthfully has been really fun and really exciting because we've been able to connect with people outside of our immediate 20, 50 people that show up at a cleanup. Instead, we get people signing on from all around the United States for these workshops to learn. So it's been a great opportunity to connect with you guys. And yeah, I'm glad you guys are all here. So just quickly, a couple of housekeeping things. As you guys can tell, we are in a traditional Zoom conference mode instead of a kind of formal webinar. And we did that on purpose because we want this to be as much as an in-person event as possible, meaning we want you guys to be able to turn on your cameras, turn on your audio and ask questions and interact as much as you want. That being said, we are streaming this to Facebook Live and we'll be recording it. So if you're not comfortable being recorded, make sure to keep those features turned off. We will go through each of the different speakers and then pause for questions. So if you have questions, feel free to save them until the end of that speaker's presentation. And then you can turn on your audio and video and actually ask, or you can put it in the chat and we will moderate the chat for these questions. Like I said, we're recording this. It's also going to be on Instagram TV and on YouTube, and I'll follow up with all these links so you guys can watch it again if you want, or share it with your friends and family that might be interested in learning about this information as well. And yeah, so when I follow up via email, I will send out the recording and then also the slides in a PDF format. So you can click on the various hyperlinks in the slides and go continue learning. So outline, I'll just give a brief introduction before getting to our experts, and then I'll pass it off to Jennifer. She's from Fairchild. She's their South Florida Conservation Program Manager. And as such, she runs their Connect to Protect program, which is a really awesome initiative that provides the community with free resources to outplant native species to their gardens, which is really important, as she'll touch on. And then she will hand it over to Muriel from Little River Cooperative. They are an urban farm, right now transitioning locations, but all organic, and they have a variety of educational programs and participate in community supported agriculture as well. And then she will pass it over to Jackie Roth. She's the project coordinator at Lotus House Shelter, and as such, she manages their different gardens, their new hydroponic farm, and connects this with their culinary programs, and also does really amazing education with shelter guests and children. So she'll talk a bit about that and give us a little virtual tour, connection permitting, but it's looking like it should work. And then finally, we'll wrap this all up with Rachel Silverstein, the Executive Director of Miami Waterkeeper. who we're so excited she has time to do this today, because as some of you or most of you know, there's currently fish kills and algae blooms happening in Biscayne Bay. And this can actually be tied back to sustainable gardening practices in some cases. So she'll talk to us about that with some of the latest information from this ongoing event. And then finally, we are having a quiz at the end through Kahoot. It's a pretty fun, user-friendly platform. So I encourage you to stay. The winner of the quiz will receive a free debris-free Oceans reusable bag and set of reusable straws. And the quiz will cover things that our speakers speak about. So pay attention. So really fast background about debris-free oceans. We're a 501c3 dedicated to clean oceans. We do this through a bunch of beach cleanups, always prioritizing making them fun and interactive. So we do scuba cleanups, we do kegging cleans where you get free beer the whole time if you bring a reusable cup. But while those are kind of preventative measures, we also do, or while those are responsive measures, we also do preventative measures and stopping it, the trash from ending up on the beach in the first place. So we do education and talk to school groups about actions they can take to prevent plastic pollution in the first place. And we do sustainability consulting to work with businesses to transition away from plastic products. And then I wanted to include our mission statement here. I did this at our last composting workshop, so I apologize. I don't like to sound like a broken record, but I feel like it's important to touch on before we get going. Inspiring local communities to responsibly manage the life cycle of plastics and waste as part of a global initiative to eradicate marine debris. And again, I bring this up because we really focus on plastic pollution a lot, especially here at Debris Free Oceans. But it's really important that we have these types of thoughts and analyses about every action that we're taking and practices in our daily life. What kind of waste is it generating? Where is it going? What is that waste doing when it gets there? How can we make the process more regenerative, more sustainable? And so we can have these about, again, these conversations about everything, one thing being gardening. So really excited to encourage you guys to start thinking about this in terms of gardening. And last slide, I promise. As in the title, we have an emphasis on education. I think it's really great that all of the participating groups have various initiatives to either educate the public or educate, in Jackie's case, women in the shelter about gardening, or in the case of Miami Waterkeeper, about water quality, citizen science. And this has to do with sustainability. We need to pass this information on and inspire other people to sustain these practices. And last thing, I looked up a couple of papers about the benefits of gardening education, and it really goes beyond just the information you're learning. This is from a review out of the University of Georgia about the impacts of gardening education. And as you can see, it impacts grades and knowledge, but also overall attitude and behavior. So it's really cool that all these groups are putting this education forward, and excited to learn about it. And you guys participating can also learn how to take advantage of their educational opportunities. So that is all I have for now. And I'm going to pass it over to Jennifer to start talking about the Connect to Protect program. I can stop sharing my slides.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot for inviting me to participate in this. This is a little bit out of my area of expertise. I'm usually kind of crawling around in the woods, measuring rare plants and things like that. But it's really strikes me how well our program fits in with the other speakers, and I'm excited to be here. I'm going to try to start sharing my screen. No. There's my whole presentation. Okay. Can I get a thumbs up if you can see this? The white, okay, thanks everybody. And I assume you can hear me because you gave a thumbs up. So I'm Jennifer Possley. I am the Conservation Program Manager at Fairchild Tropical Botanic Garden. And I'm here to talk about the Connect to Protect network But before I do that, I want to give a little bit of background about what we do with the rare plants and ecosystems here in Miami. I think we all know that South Florida is a really exceptional place. And we have a staff of 5 who work out of Fairchild Garden. We're completely grant-based, and this is us, the conservation team. Besides our staff, we have a huge amount of volunteers and cooperators that work with us. And our mission is to reduce the extinction risk of the rare flora of South Florida and the Caribbean. There's a critical need for a program like this in South Florida. We're in a biodiversity hotspot. I mean, we have serious biodiversity here. We're part of the Caribbean biodiversity hotspot, one of 30 in the world, one of the only hotspots in the continental US. And then we face more challenges and problems than almost any place else in the US or globally when you think about it. If you look at the Venn diagram of some of our most important issues with rare plants and rare wildlife, we've got habitat loss, we've got serious invasive species problems. Florida, as you know, is ground zero for a lot of them. And then we're at the forefront of sea level rise. So we're right smack dab in the middle of that Venn diagram of problems. And we have this beautiful, wonderful natural biodiversity here. My home state, I'm from Michigan. I was born in Michigan. I think we have 1 federally listed species. Looking at Miami-Dade County alone, we have 12 endangered and 2 threatened plant species. We have endangered butterflies and our bat, the Florida bonneted bat, and we have a federally listed beetle, the Miami tiger beetle. That's one metric of how much unique biodiversity we have here. And by the way, this beautiful watercolor is a picture of a native plant, the pineland croton, and 2 federally listed butterflies that depend on it, the Bartram's scrub hairstreak and the Florida leafwing. So many of our species are already gone, unfortunately. We have 73 plant species that were once here that are now gone. 2 butterfly species that are completely extinct, and 17 plus butterfly species that are imperiled. And what we do at Fairchild is we work to try to reverse this. Most of what we do is really kind of not super sexy behind the scenes stuff. We're writing reports, we're collecting data, we're banking seeds, we're working with land managers to improve land management techniques to benefit the rare species. But we do some outreach and education. And an extremely important part of that is our Connect to Protect network. So our network, Connect to Protect, we started in 2007, and the mission is to inspire South Florida to plant pine rockland plants in order to connect the few remaining fragments that are left here. Pine rockland is our globally critically imperiled ecosystem. It's gorgeous. There's plenty of people who live out their whole lives here, never having seen any. The forest has 1 tree species, the pine tree, but there's about 100 species of mid-story and then more than 300 native grasses and herbs, including several endemic species. And endemic meaning they are found only in Miami pine rocklands. So this is a map of Miami-Dade County with the historic range of pine rockland. I put an F for Fairchild Garden where I work and a B for the downtown Brickell area. And what's remaining today is mostly been converted into urban areas and streets. There's a few little fragments left. You can see, if I can move my little mouse over it, here's the Richmond pine rocklands with the zoo, Larry and Penny. Here's the Deering estate over here. But we've lost most of this. But what we're doing with Connect to Protect is we are reaching out to homeowners and schools to try to fill in some of the gaps. And here I have a map with our members in pink. And if we can reach out to enough people, we're going to be putting some of this habitat back and connecting the dots for some of these birds and bugs and bees and butterflies. And this really is truly our membership map. This is a little bit out of date, but we've got really good coverage over the county. We have some, I think maybe 900 gardens at this point in our network. This is a close-up of our membership in the Miami Shores area. We have quite a few members here thanks to an organization called Bound by Beauty. They are butterfly enthusiasts, and they have been enthusiastically embracing the Connect to Protect vision. Using the example of the Atala butterfly, we think they can fly about 100 meters. So if you put a 100-meter little buffer around all of our members, we're starting to get enough members in this area where instead of looking like little isolated islands, we're creating a bigger habitat patch to an Atala butterfly. So this is an example of where we want to go with this. We focus a lot on butterflies, but we're not strictly a butterfly organization. One of the most exciting things that has happened in the last couple of years is we tell people to look out for this rare butterfly. It's so far only been found in the Everglades and in the area around Zoo Miami. This is the Florida dusky wing, and it hosts on the locust berry, this beautiful flower here on the right. And we have had two members at this point find it in their yard. Both members live pretty close to Larry and Penny Thompson Park. And through our newsletter, we've been educating people about what these things look like, what their host plants are, how to find them. And it's been really exciting and rewarding to see some evidence that planting native plants in Miami is working. So we encourage people to join Connect to Protect, especially if they're interested in becoming part of our citizen science network. We are all about documenting biodiversity, trying to figure out what is here in Miami. Miami's a big urban jungle, but there's really some pretty incredible biodiversity in people's yards. We have a monthly newsletter where we put all this information out. Pre-COVID, we used to do bio blitzes and hikes. And then we have a free starter kit of pine rockland plants, which is extremely popular, as you might imagine. New members, if they're a homeowner, they get 5 plants for their home. Or if you're a school, you get 10. We have a restriction that you have to live in Miami-Dade or Monroe County to join, because we're completely focused on rebuilding the pine rockland ecosystem, and that's the only place it's found. You have to be able to maintain the plants on your property for at least 2 years. And something that we haven't requested more, but honestly, being part of this workshop has made me think about it. We often ask people, don't take our plants and don't join our program if you use pesticides in your yard. And it's not only important for the health of Biscayne Bay, but our whole program is kind of pointless looking for biodiversity in your yard if you're spraying pesticides on it. So we are also quite anti-pesticide. You can join our network by visiting our website and learning more, and emailing connecttoprotect@fairchildgarden.org. Just send us an email and say, I want to join, and here's my name, address, and phone number. And full disclosure here, we have no dedicated staff for this program. We have staff that are all working on this in our spare time, and we have a wonderful volunteer, Daniela, who manages the entire membership and plant distribution program. So we often aren't able to pay as much attention to individual requests as people would like, but we're really passionate about it, and we keep hoping that we're going to find just the right billionaire to fund our program. So if you know anybody, please let me know. So this is what you can expect when you join the Connect to Protect network. You get an invitation from Daniela to come to the nursery. You can pick out your 5-plant starter kit, and a yard sign if you'd like one to advertise that you're in the network. And we do increasingly have people join because they see the sign in their neighbor's yard and they say, oh, what is that? And then they Google it, which is really nice. And our members get invitations to attend bio blitzes. And then one thing we really try to do is to connect members with resources that can help you to grow and maintain your native plant garden, because like we were discussing with the other panelists on the pre-call yesterday, South Florida is not like anywhere else in the US. You can't go to Barnes and Nobles and buy a book on gardening with native plants and expect to find anything relevant to growing pine rockland plants. So we help to connect people to native plant nurseries, to experts, and to information about the biodiversity in your garden. And we try to do fun things too, like photo contests. And I have the results of a couple of our photo contests, I think in 2018. This was our first place winner. This is a yard from El Portal. And this is not 100% pine rockland, but it is 100% native. And this was a beautiful yard. Our second place yard, it's also 100% native. This lady lives in, I think, the Redland, and she said she had a skinny side yard and she couldn't fit her lawnmower around the side of the house, so she decided to plant native grasses, and she said it's just gangbusters for butterflies and birds. It's this beautiful little piece of habitat, and it looks nice too, I think. And then third place, this guy is my buddy Steve. He went whole hog, did the complete pine rockland restoration in his front yard. It's a tiny little like 10 by 12 plot, extremely diverse, and he gets black racers and he gets herons and all kinds of beautiful wildlife. And then I think this is my last slide. I wanted to just mention that we have schools too. This program is difficult for schools because summer break, there's usually, nobody around to take care of the garden. And then by the time fall comes around, it can be difficult to get support for it because it can be pretty weedy. But in 2007, we had our first school join. This is West Miami Middle School on Coral Way in West Miami. And this is really the efforts of some of my former coworkers and a teacher named Lisette Perez Munoz at the school. She got a grant from the Toyota Tapestry Foundation and worked with us to design and install this. And this before and after picture is just amazing. Take a look at the kind of top center. There's a house with a pointy roof. And I'm going to jump forward 7 years so you can see what it looks like after installation. And these kids and their teachers really installed a functioning pine rockland forest on their school property. It's gorgeous, and it took some work, and there wasn't really a rule book for it, but they did it. And we're hoping to inspire more and more people in Miami to do this. So here's our website, fairchildgarden.org/CTPN, and the contact information. I'm the program director. Daniela is the manager of Connect to Protect, and Brian is our horticulturist who gets to spend all his time growing these plants. And that's it. I think I'll take any questions or pass the baton to Muriel, whichever is more appropriate for the time we have left.
Yes, we have one question in the chat. I'll ask real quick, and then if anyone has additional questions, feel free to unmute yourself. So Andrew asked if the BioBlitz are on iNaturalist.
Yes, iNaturalist has been wonderful for us, and we only held one. It was at Gould's Pine Rockland Preserve. It was so fun. The highlight of the day was an ovipositing praying mantis. And then this year we had one scheduled where we were going to do a BioBlitz at a newly acquired preserve, and we were going to contribute data to the plant and animal list, but pandemic, it had to be postponed. So, but iNaturalist has been just wonderful.
And then Jackie asked if you could please explain what extirpation and bioblitzes are.
Oh, bad me. I should have explained what extirpation is. Sorry about that, Jackie. Extirpation is kind of a precursor to extinction. So if there's a butterfly species that is extirpated from Miami, it's gone from Miami, but it still exists somewhere in the world. When it's gone from the entire planet, it's extinct. So we do have 2 butterflies that are completely extinct, and we have some that are extirpated. So it's really the precursor. And then the other one, besides extirpated, what was it?
BioBlitz.
Oh, BioBlitz. It's an activity where you get a whole bunch of people together and try to get a whole bunch of data in one day. And we're usually focused on plant and butterfly species, but it could be other things too. I think up north, for example, people focus a lot on macroinvertebrates in rivers because that's a really good indicator of ecosystem health. So it's really a way to get volunteers to help you collect data on biodiversity.
Awesome. And then we have 2 more quick ones, and then we'll switch over to Muriel in the interest of time. Someone asked if Pinus is a native species, and then that was from Mabel. And then Gatry asked what the host plant for a dusky wing is.
Okay, I know the answers to both of those. So the Dade County pine is a native species. That's Pinus elliottii, also known as slash pine. There's a billion other pine species that are not native to Miami. The slash pine is the only one that's native. And the host plant for the Florida dusky wing is the locust berry. And that's a really cool pine rockland plant that's found in South Florida and the West Indies, really pretty flowers. So locust berry, and it's something you can get at some native plant nurseries for sure.
Awesome. And then I realized I missed a question, but this is hopefully quick. Do you know if there's a similar program in Broward, Hollywood?
I don't think there is, no.
Okay.
But if somebody wants to start one, we'll help them.
Awesome. Thank you, Jennifer. And if you guys have questions, feel free to email her. Again, these slides will go out afterwards with everyone's contact info. But now we'll have Muriel from Little River Co-op speak about their urban gardening. And I also just wanted to add real quick, if you guys have resources that you want to share with everyone, feel free to put them in the chat. I'll end up saving the chat and also including resources that people send in the follow-up email.
Hi, everybody. My name is Muriel Olivares, and I am one of the co-owners of Little River Cooperative. Before I start talking too much, I'm going to share my screen too, but I wanted you to have a minute to just see who's talking, clearly. So I'm going to share my screen. You guys want to do the thumbs up thing? Okay. Little River Cooperative is, for those who don't already know, we started off as an urban farm about 7 years ago. Myself and my business partner, Tiffany Noe, we are an actual functioning business, not a not-for-profit. So all of our programming is for profit. And we try really hard to run our business very aware of good practices and so many different levels, like environmental practices, good hiring practices, all kinds of fairnesses across the board. Over the years, we have sort of shifted. We started as an urban farm, right? So what drove us was growing fresh vegetables, organic vegetables for the community. And we started the company with a CSA program, which, if you don't know, CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture. And it is a way for small farmers to sort of get a little bit of financial security by pre-selling their vegetables. So they are getting the community to commit to buying their vegetables by becoming a member of the farm and paying kind of a bulk price at the beginning of the growing season. And then the farm, as a payback sort of for that, they pay you back in vegetables every week. So you get a box of vegetables every week. It's pretty different from a buying club because the farm is actually producing the food locally, and you have a relationship with them. And so it is really almost like having your own farmer as part of your family. You know, you pick up your produce from them usually, or someone that works with the farm, and so you get a really intimate relationship. Over the years, we have evolved to actually become more of an educational company. Like we've started to find that because we were an urban farm, that there was a lot of need for information, education about growing food locally, about growing organic food. There is sort of like a disconnect because of our very unique climate. And so in other parts of the country, growing food for yourself, like in your backyard, is very intuitive because the whole country is sort of, you know, like together, following these seasons together, like as a whole, like all these states sharing resources, all the advertisements, all the big box stores, like your Home Depot, like all these big kind of influencers, right, of like the patterns of the seasons are on par with what you should be doing. So when you look at seed packets and you look for the best planting date for something, or when you Google something really quick, like when do I plant tomatoes? You know, if you're in South Florida, you actually get very misleading answers to a lot of that stuff because we are in such a unique climate. So we were finding a lot of misinformation out there and a lot of confusion. And so we found ourselves always explaining, you know, like, you actually don't grow vegetables in the summer down here, which is the direct opposite of where most people, when most people grow vegetables in our country. So we are really outliers. We're the only region in the continental United States that primarily grows their vegetables in the fall, winter, and spring. So that can be really like confusing, right, for most people. So over the years, we started providing more educational programming, and then eventually the service of installing edible gardens for people and maintaining the gardens. We are an all organic company, and so we feel that like by promoting and educating people about the organic practices, we are having a positive impact on the way that people are aware, you know, the way that people become aware of what products they're using and using them responsibly, how the products they use affect the environment and the ecosystem, even in their own small backyard. So, you know, using organic products makes a really big impact, even in a small scale. This is our vision, which is empowering people through connections with food and ecology, which really points at the fact that we really are not just a business, and we put a lot of emphasis on educating people through the work that we do. Our main business comes from installing, like I said, installing edible gardens. This is at a school, a small private school, and then sometimes we end up installing gardens that are much more public. You might have heard of a place in Wynwood that used to exist that closed down called the Wynwood Yard. We had a really beautiful urban edible garden in that location that was open to the public, and it was full of flowers and biodiversity, and it was always full of a lot of beautiful butterflies and bees and things going on, like nature, mini nature. This particular garden is in the middle of downtown. It is at the, it's part of the Miami-Dade Community College, and it is, it's for students. It is by students, for students. Right now it is closed, unfortunately, because of COVID, but the garden is still alive and well. There just aren't any students there for now. Besides the installation of gardens and the maintenance of gardens, we have this nursery. It's a big greenhouse where we grow all of our edible plants. We have events there. We have sales there. We have open houses. We have workshops there. And I kind of want to speak a little bit to some of the practices that we focus on to reduce waste, because like in every business, there's a lot of waste, especially when you're talking about scaling up or profitability or the bottom line. You know, a lot of times things get sacrificed for the bottom line, right? And so we try to always have like a thinking hat on, where we are, you know, trying to prioritize making good decisions, good environmental decisions. And so two of the main things that that we work hard to do. Work hard, I say, because plant labels, for example, are traditionally plastic. So almost any nursery you go to is going to have plastic labels in the pots. That might seem kind of insignificant, but they're, you know, they get thrown away. There's thousands of them. That sometimes they don't end up in the garbage because they are small, and they just kind of end up, you know, draining into the bay or wherever. And so, but plastic labels last a long time. They can be reused. You know, they're easy to read and write on. And so that's why people end up using them. But we have found this other solution, which is they're small, you know, biodegradable, untreated pine tags that don't last a long time. So if you buy a plant from us, this is the tag in it, and you have to remember what it is, because a month later it'll probably be, you know, it'll start to biodegrade on you. Same thing with our pots. Our pots are biodegradable for the most part. We do use some plastic pots. The plastic pots we do use, we offer a 10-cent refund for every pot you bring us. So if you collect a stack of 30 pots that you bought from us, we will give you 10 cents for each one of those the next time you come shop, and we will reuse them. In fact, when we go to plant our gardens, we keep all the pots and reuse them many, many times. We definitely do a lot of reusing of plastics. And then the biodegradable pots are really great. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to take them out or anything. You just plant it right in the ground. In terms of education, it's a little bit of a sad subject right now because of COVID, because all of our education was hands-on, was very, and we felt it was very important for it to be hands-on, because being an urban farm, we have access to give, we have the ability to give people these experiences that otherwise they would never have in an urban setting. So, you know, having an actual relationship to the ground, to the earth, to the process. If people, in this particular workshop, people were coming to farm for 7 consecutive weeks. And so I think they did the weekend before, they got to see, you know, the process of, they got to see this whole field transform. I actually wish I had it before and after, but because it's really like impactful when you see it before and after. I really liked the one you guys just showed. So yeah, we see this, the sort of beneficial impact of people that like gardening has on people, that exposure to nature has on people. Some of our workshops are a little bit more tame, but you know, we do soil fertility workshops. We used to do some beekeeping workshops. We did a lot of workshops for kids. This one in particular was a ladybug release, and the whole theme of the workshop was beneficial insects and beneficial bacteria in your gut. And so we had partnered with a kombucha company, and we were talking a lot about how beneficial insects in nature, how important they are, and then how beneficial bacteria in your gut are like very similar, you know, good and bad bugs. On our website, I know that Maddie's going to be sharing a bunch of resources at the end of this workshop, and she's sharing links to our website. This particular slide is for a series of videos that we started filming because of the quarantine and because of COVID. We started putting that educational material on YouTube. So I gave her a link to that, and you guys should check them out. We're adding more of them all the time. We're actually filming one tomorrow that is going to teach people all about what you should be doing to start an organic fall vegetable garden. And we're going to demonstrate how to install a raised bed and plant it, and talk about the soil and all kinds of stuff. So I don't know if anybody has any particular questions about any of the stuff I just said.
So if anyone has questions, feel free to unmute and ask. I'll check the chat really quickly. Yeah, I don't think we have any questions right now.
Okay.
Yeah, if stuff comes up, we can also address them later.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah.
I should stop sharing my screen.
Yeah, it all sounds awesome. I can't wait to finally visit one day. And yeah, I'll follow up with all of this so people can visit virtually
Cool.
right now. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Now we'll have Jackie coming to us live from Lotus House Women's Shelter. She's going to talk a little bit about the shelter and then about their farming initiatives and give us a little tour, connection permitting.
Yay. Yes, I moved outside, so this is actually the farm right behind me. I wanted to have the proper setting so that I could easily access it for the tour, but if there are connectivity problems, if you can't hear me, or can't see me or whatever, please put it in the chat or do like a thumbs down or whatever. Also, I'm super inexperienced with Zoom, so I don't really know how to share my screen. Maddie, is it possible for you to do the PowerPoint for me?
Yeah, one sec. Let me pull it.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
I have been, we have been doing in-person work this whole time. Shelter operates 24/7, 365, so I have not had the chance to acquaint myself with video conferencing the way other people have.
I got you. Can you guys see the slides right now? Good? Awesome.
All right, yes, so just wanted to start with an overview of Lotus House. Some people might not know what we are. So we are a shelter for women and children, but we do so much more than that. Shelter almost isn't a sufficient word to describe it. So like if you look at our Instagram, on our bio, we call ourselves a holistic residential facility. Women and children and youth only. Currently, we have 480 people living with us, about 470, 480 nightly. And I put a breakdown in there, but the biggest, so we serve both singles, single women coming in from the street or whatever situation, but mostly families, and almost half of all of our guests are children. So we serve a lot of children and families. And I started listing out all of the services we provide and all of our programs, and had to put it down into a tiny, tiny font size because it wouldn't fit on the slide. So then at the bottom, I just said too much to count. But some examples of stuff. So we do have our own culinary center. We provide all of our food, 3 meals a day, and snacks to guests. A major feature of our operations and our team in general is that we hire guests and alumni whenever possible. So actually 1/3 of all of our staff at the shelter are previous guests of the shelter. We have an education and employment center, of course, do all kinds of things like GED classes, test prep, job training, college enrollment, all those things. And then we have like a full medical and dental clinic. We have a thrift store, all that stuff. I won't go way too into it, but what I do, my title is project coordinator. So I do a hodgepodge of stuff. I help out with some research, but mostly my work focuses on our farm program, which centers around our hydroponic farm. But we have some other features to the program that I'll talk about in a little bit. But first I'm gonna pivot. So you can go ahead and go to the next slide. Gonna pivot a bit and talk about hydroponics in case anyone isn't familiar with it. So hydroponics essentially just means that you're not using any soil. And there's a lot of different setups that you can do. Like what we have is a full container, but basically the main features of it are LED lights. It's usually indoors, which allows you to control the climate, temperature, humidity, surrounding environment. You don't have, you know, all the bugs out in the wild that you would have. You put the nutrient solutions directly into the water. So with the water pump system, the plants will uptake the nutrients from the water, and because of that, their roots don't have to spread out and search for food the way that they would typically in dirt. And so because of that, you can plant things much closer and much more compact and more efficiently. And a lot of people will program it up, so make sure everything's automated. There's usually software that goes with it. One of the notes I put is plumbing plus electricity plus HVAC is basically how I would describe a hydroponic system. It can be as big as or small as you want it to be. Some people build their own. The market ranges from totally do-it-yourself, built from scrap material at home, all the way up to what we have, which is a plug-and-play model of an entire shipping container with a farm on the inside. So you can go ahead to the next slide. So our farm, we purchased ours from Freight Farms, is a company up in Boston, Massachusetts. And we actually have a deal with them. If you are interested in buying a farm and you reach out to them, we actually receive a percentage of the sale, and that helps support our program. So please, if you have any interest in buying a Freight Farm at the end of this video, drop the name Lotus House. It would really help out our program. But it is a 8 by 40 foot shipping container. So totally closed and self-contained, vertical walls, there's a seedling nursery area. And because you can put things in so much more compact and they grow so much more efficiently, it has the equivalent growing capacity of anywhere between 2.5 to 3.5 acres of land. And between the nursery and the main grow area, you can have up to 10,000 plants at a time growing inside the farm. And then ours has a touch screen. There's also an app that goes with it if you need to like check in and control things, but otherwise it is fully automated. So the lights will turn on for an 18-hour cycle automatically every day. During that light cycle, the plants will be watered automatically every 30 minutes. And there are 2 water tanks. The whole thing is closed loop. So the tanks pump the water up above the grow walls. The water runs down into gutters, and the water flows from the gutters back into the tank. So everything is recycled, and just about once a month, you empty the entire tank just to get rid of any salts or residues or whatever the plants don't use that gets left behind. And also the last bullet point, so there are sensors that monitor the nutrient level in the tanks. And based on those sensor readings, the software will automatically dose in more nutrients based on what the plant needs. So you always have the perfect pH, the perfect nutrient balance for all of your plants. You can go ahead to the next slide. So our farm program started, we are actually coming up at almost our exact 1-year anniversary since we started doing programming in our farm. We received our farm from Freight Farms last July. So it started with this hydroponic farm, and then all of the plugs and grow medium and all of the byproduct, if you will, from the hydroponic farm can be composted. And we have this whole other like rooftop terrace garden area that was kind of underutilized for a while. And so we just decided to start this whole other garden, basically. So we have both the hydroponic farm on our first floor, and then on the second floor rooftop is a container soil garden. Everything we grow goes straight to our kitchen. So to date, in the past year, we have harvested 15,000 heads of lettuce in our container farm. All of that lettuce goes straight to the kitchen where it's used in our salad bar at lunch and dinner every day. So it is literally like 100 feet farm to table. There's no pesticides or anything. Went off on a tangent. So we have everything we grow goes to the kitchen, and then we do cooking classes with the children. Like I said, we have a ton of children at the shelter. I put in a really cute picture on this slide of 2 of our little farmer chefs helping me make collard greens. And we are going to be doing cooking classes once a week now that school is starting. And then I also included a picture of our farm stand. It's just kind of a bit of an outreach tool. And you can't see it very clearly in that picture, but there's a plant. Each week there's either Farmer of the Week, which highlights one of our kids who was especially helpful, or there's a Plant of the Week that we kind of educate people on. We spotlight what we're growing, we'll add coloring pages, things like that. Pre-COVID, we used the farm stand to give out samples and make snacks and do kind of hands-on stuff. We do a lot of special events. And then we are also have a system in place for adults where if they are interested in getting involved with the hydroponic gardening, we actually have a few other community partners like Hammock Greens and Box Greens are two other Miami hydroponic companies that we will actually refer those women for jobs. We're actually possibly considering hiring another guest to help with the gardening stuff here. Because of course we're at a shelter and the end game is always to give people decent paying jobs. Hydroponics is a hugely fastly growing industry. Really anyone can do it, no matter what your ability or experience is. So that's a really great extension of the program. And all of this, all of the messaging, both of the gardens, all the cooking classes, all of this is to get children and families to eat more fruits and vegetables. We did a survey of families when they first came into the shelter, and a very small percentage, only like 15% of mothers reported that they would include vegetables in a typical meal. As you can imagine, there's a lot of food insecurity, malnutrition that goes along with homelessness. So we really wanted to give as much exposure to gardening and fruits and veggies and plants as we possibly could during the family's stay here. So you can go ahead and go to the next slide. And then I wanted to highlight the sustainability aspect of hydroponics. So like I said, there's 2 water tanks that total about 150 gallons between the 2. We empty out and replace that water once a month. So when you break it down, it's actually less than 5 gallons of water a day. And Freight Farms, the manufacturer, has advertised that that is less than the average dishwasher. And then because you're in this contained environment, there's no bugs or anything. We don't use any pesticides or herbicides or sprays or fertilizers of any kind. There's really no need for that. So you can actually eat it right away. You technically don't even have to clean the food before you eat it, but we do, of course, just to be safe. And then the grow medium, I pointed it out in the last slide, just like the basic component of all hydroponic systems is this inert grow medium. We call them little plugs. Our plugs are made out of coconut husk and peat moss. And so we compost all of that. If there, for whatever reason, are certain parts of the plant that we can't use, we compost it. And again, that all goes to our upstairs soil garden. Another beauty and sustainability, accessibility aspect of the hydroponics is that you have a consistent climate and consistent harvest 365 days a year, no matter what the external conditions are. And we did, when we were talking yesterday, I had some questions about what are the limits of hydroponics? How far can it go? And I will say that the farm that we have for sure is optimized for leafy greens, herbs, and other small root vegetables. So of course, since it's a closed environment, you don't have bees or butterflies or other pollinators like that. So at this time, we don't grow any kind of fruit or fruiting plants because we would actually have to pollinate it ourselves. Which is not something that is out of the question. We've just only had our farm for a year and haven't gotten to that point yet. But so lots of densely nutritious leafy greens and things like that, which is great for us, especially people at the shelter who don't eat a whole lot of vegetables typically. We can give them like a very heavy dose of nutrients in our salad bar. And then of course with these hydroponic farms, with the containers, you can put them anywhere. You can put them in parking lots, you can put them in schools, you can put them in a shelter. And then if you have one of those smaller systems, it can be in your home. And then I bolded anyone can do it. I actually, when I came to this job, I had no other gardening experience. I had studied nutrition and did some nutrition education in college, and have always been super passionate about food, but the actual gardening stuff, I was a total novice to. And after a year at this point, I feel, I don't like throwing around the word expert, but I feel very confident about our hydroponic abilities. So really anyone can be trained on it. And that's the beauty of what I mentioned earlier about referring people to jobs, is any woman at the shelter can do it, even if you're in a wheelchair, and if you have no prior work experience, whatever. And then the next slide, I just added some really cute pictures from our program because our kids are the cutest and the best, and they sincerely love the farm. Like, I cannot exaggerate enough how they will run up to me in the hallways and ask to go to the farm. They want to help out at dinner. I've been doing surveys recently, actually, for one of our grants on just kind of impacts of the farm and satisfaction and things like that. And probably at least 2/3 of everyone who's responded so far said that they are eating more fruits and vegetables since they've engaged in the program, which is amazing. Better than we could have asked for. So before, I think that next slide is just like resources. Really simple stuff. I threw down my email, but you can volunteer with us. I always need help with the hydroponics and outdoor garden and cooking classes. All of those are totally things, just like the more help, the better. So please reach out to me if you're at all interested, and we'll get you here. And then of course you can donate. We are a nonprofit. We rely on donations, philanthropy, things like that. We also purchased our farm with multiple grants, and those grant periods are ending. So we are approaching a period where we're sustained, but you know, we can always use extra funds to keep the program going. And on that note, I will hop into the farm really quick, especially since it's super hot out here, and I would love to get in some air conditioning. So just gonna walk on over. And I told Maddie this is